This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome, and thanks for joining me on Speak Up Effective Communication. I'm your host, Craig O'Neill, and once again, I do look forward to sharing some of my recent takeaways from an event that I shared about. When you have a near confrontation with individual in a place that's normally peaceful, it sticks with you. And this one stuck with me a little bit, and it's taught me a few things that I think I could have done better, and a few things I think I did very well in the near encounter, the encounter that I had back on August 29th, the story of the cemetery. So if you haven't heard that story, I've told that story now a few times, and there's a few links in the show notes that we'll provide for a new story. For anyone who's ever been in a stressful encounter or has witnessed a crime or had to confront a criminal, I think there's plenty of things that stick with you. And so as I was walking on a regular walk, free of any confrontations in a woods, very peaceful, it was nice, I did develop some takeaways that I want to share with you today. So we're going to talk about 5 takeaways from my recent encounter in the cemetery and how this correlates with communication. Looking to take your shop to the next level of quality service, team culture, and overall profitability? At the Institute, we provide personalized coaching that aligns with your goals of financial stability, excellent customer service, and employee satisfaction. Our priority is helping you establish significant and sustainable progress. We work with you to create strategies that reduce the stress of running your business, improve your quality and performance, and optimize your profitability. Experience the benefits of professional coaching by visiting wearetheinstitute.com/business-assessment. Hey friends, as you know, I'm a proud member of the AutoFlow team, and let me tell you, we've changed how business is done for auto shops everywhere. We support your client experience before, during, and after the work is done. Imagine this: timely updates sent directly to your clients, branded digital vehicle inspections, and seamless communication from start to finish. That's why shops love AutoFlow. And hey, with those 5-star reviews rolling in, you'll wonder how you ever managed without us. Take an important next step and take your auto shop to the next level. Visit www.autoflow.com. Get on board with an AutoFlow trial. Are you ready to meet your perfect auto repair shop management software partner? Well, say farewell to the days of transactional relationships and hello to a true partnership that elevates your business. The #1 all-in-one solution is AutoLeap. You're not just getting software, you're gaining a dedicated ally committed to your success. AutoLeap will help you sell more, save time, and delight your customers at every turn. From scheduling appointments to creating estimates, generating invoices, managing technicians, and seamlessly syncing with QuickBooks to keep your records updated, experience the difference a true partnership makes. Visit Autoleap.com and book a demo today. Autoleap, your trusted partner for success. Want to see your auto repair shop thrive? Are you looking to drive more customers to your auto repair shop? Let ShopDog Marketing be your guide. Our customer-first approach, combined with AI-driven creative content, ensures top rankings. Dominate mobile first and voice search with our specialized expertise. Reach out to ShopDog Marketing today and start growing your business. Don't miss out on this chance to boost your business. Visit shopdogmarketing.com. Inbound has exclusively served independent auto repair shops with expert communication solutions for years. Our robust VoIP platform ensures you stay connected while our industry-leading AI analytics take your business to the next level. We provide the tools you need to understand your customers and optimize every interaction. Choose Inbound for proven expertise and unmatched innovation. Visit callinbound.com and discover the difference we can make. Takeaway #1. Word choice matters less than delivery. What do I mean by that? Well, this is a high stress encounter. It became high stress anyway. It was spontaneous, it was shocking, and high stress. Some things will become automatic in any scenario like that. I think that's something anyone needs to be aware of. You are going to default to your base instincts and habits in a spontaneous, shocking, or stressful scenario. This is true for why it can be stressful in arguments with family members versus anywhere else in the world. All sorts of things happen. You get comfortable or uncomfortable. It's going to dictate how you respond. In my case, what I did do, I was able to pull my phone out and start recording something. And you hear the words that I yelled. And I wasn't necessarily happy with those word choices. I scrutinized myself or critiqued myself later on. Thought, hey, knock it off was kind of a stupid choice of words. And I've poked fun at that a few times. But the words didn't matter. It was the inflection behind those. And what I would call the tone that I achieve in those sort of moments, and unfortunately, is very rare. I'd call it a punctuated parental projection. And I've had to use, I think, one other time that I've ever had to really raise my voice at an individual, and it wasn't really necessary, but I happened to be across the street at a neighbor's house on Halloween, and we had our bucket of candy out, and I saw a kid taking more than one, and I probably yelled something like, "Hey, that's my house." And it was loud enough to shock even the adults I was there, that that voice could raise very suddenly and really pierces the moment. I've had to use it before in other cases where, when your kids are learning to ride bikes or they're about to cross the street at a time or dangerously move without looking, and you need them to stop and you yell in a way that snaps attention. That's the delivery that I'm talking about there. And I think not everyone's really equipped for it. A lot of people are extraordinarily uncomfortable with that. I have no issue with sharply projecting something if I need to. And it works if it's rare. If it were all the time, I'm pretty sure it would not have your desired effect. The desired effect in this case is to snap attention away from whatever somebody's doing and make them pay attention to you. And that's sort of what happened in the cemetery on that day when I yelled, "Hey, knock it off." The person did stop and his attention was then on me, fortunately far enough away, even as he was initiating some threats there. So typically reserved to keep kids from doing something stupid, but it applies here. The word choice does not matter, but having any kind of an utterance, if it's delivered really well and it's loud enough and projects well enough, oh boy, human speech can be very powerful to snap some attention. What's next is your plan once you have that attention. And this is where, as I analyze what happened, this is kind of where it breaks down a little bit for me. Now, I had initially just planned to film the guy and call 911, but it was disturbing enough seeing statues being smashed in a cemetery that whether planned or not, I spoke up. That's what I did. Got me some attention I didn't want from the individual, and it took away the ability that I would have had to just follow them and call 911 with less stress, perhaps, but I wasn't willing to witness further damage, I guess would be the only problem. But in this case, I guess my plan was really simple: get the evidence, stop further damage, then call the police. And I had an escape route. I knew the area. This is familiar ground for me. I had lots of different places that I could go if I needed to. And I did expect just to simply follow the guy and get help from the police. But here's the point: the plan has to be dynamic. If you're going to get in a confrontation like this, and I've learned now this myself, fortunately, in 41 years of life, I've had very few moments of practice in this sort of scenario. I get to count on the police to protect our community. Friends of mine who've served in the military, I applaud their service and thank them all the time. They've probably had more experience in stressful scenarios than the average civilian. So I would actually really like some feedback from those folks on this sort of topic. I'm sure they have a lot of things that they've been more trained on than the average person. So all we get is reflection. And unfortunately, I can have the reflections here. When it comes to the plan, what I mean by this is I've had self defense training for years, and there's a baseline layer of confidence. But one of the things that anyone who's been in martial arts or any other study is you always do want to try to not have the fight if there's ever a situation like this. So my goal again was very much just to follow, and I could have achieved that in some other ways than what I did. The most disappointing thing was on the third point. I was isolated, and that is not a good spot to be in when there's a confrontation going on. And that might not be your choice. You may find yourself in that situation. And this is something my daughter, she wants to go jogging on her own all the time. We're very uncomfortable with that at certain times of the day and in certain areas. We don't want that. No one should want that. It is always better to have another person there. And especially if a crime is being committed and you're interjecting yourself into that scenario, whether good cause or whatever, Isolation is a very dangerous thing. So I reached out. Of course, it was the 911 call initially, but they had to let me go, they said. And I was really surprised by that. So my plan of talking to them and getting the police to that spot was no longer really an option. So I had to immediately call my family, my wife and son. I've told that part of the story a few times now, but my wife didn't answer her phone initially. My son, who always has it in his hand, did. And that's how he was notified. He came very quickly, and I suspect had a little bit more eagerness to be a part of an adventure that's going on right now too. And that's not the point here at all. It should never be anybody's plan to look for a way to have a situation like this or try to have a vigilante mindset or anything. This is just a peaceful place I walk every day that's been violated. So, very different case. It's where I always am. And this is something that was happening in a spot and it's hyper unusual. But it is extremely important that someone else is there. And I think this is really important for me. It bolsters an appearance of strength when you have additional people with you. This was an individual that was committing a crime. And so having more numbers and the fact my son brought his vehicle gave me even another option for escape, not in order to threaten a person to have a vehicle, but an escape route option opened up for me. I do believe that if you look at the films that I had in other parts of this story, my son and my wife were in the vehicle behind me at that moment when the guy says, "You want to die." And this was I don't think that guy wanted to hurt anybody. I never had that real read on him. Like he was really serious, going to act on a threat. He wasn't making too many gestures that made it appear so. But I was also not doing that either. So hopefully, presence of multiple people, it just didn't even cross his mind as an option. Having more people there, obviously, it was a good thing. And I look back on that as probably one of the smarter things I did. In fact, I don't think I would have even followed into the next area where I saw the guy go if backup hadn't arrived. I didn't feel comfortable going into the tighter spaces without a good line of sight before I did. And that was evidenced in the video. I emerged from a tight area there and was a lot closer to the guy than I even intended to be in. Having someone with you is wonderful. Make sure they're the right people. The wrong people might be escalatory in their actions. That friend. Some of you have them. I know I have them. My wife and my son, neither of them typically looking for any kind of a thing. My son's never been in an altercation, my wife either. And I never have. One kid in school one time, minor fist fight. It was very minor. Doesn't even register on the scale of what this could have been. So de-escalation is the option that I recognized is basically what I was doing. I wasn't just trying to go away. I wanted to keep track of the guy. I wanted to make sure the police would know how to find him. And the guy was crossing a park now with a playground. I didn't want to not see what he was going to do. There's kids playing nearby. There's generally a lot of activity. It wasn't tons of activity here that night, but there was a few mothers with kids at the playground and not exactly a scenario that want to just walk away from if there's a crazy guy that's been damaging things. That's just not what I felt like I should do. So having a brief confrontation there, de-escalation is where it came in. And this is kind of where I've poked fun at this. Like when he says want to die, and all I said was no. And I said other things like go about your way. Don't come back. You can't go around smashing cemeteries. I that made a misspeak on one thing. I said would break your steam somewhere else. Go blow your steam somewhere else is what I meant to say. Word choice here versus the spirit of the intent. What I was intending to communicate was very important here. And I think this was a positive, there's a negative to this point here I'll make in a second, but I was giving him options that suggested a course of action that he should take. I was directing his thoughts and influencing the decisions that he could take there. I wasn't saying, try me or bring it or I'm ready or any of these other things or like you could do in a fight. These are subtle ways of trying to direct somebody's energy towards a more potentially positive outcome. And those options being available to them, I think are important for why someone would choose to continue to walk away despite the discomfort of being followed at a distance and filmed, still an option for him versus attacking, especially with people behind me and him being outnumbered 3-1. That would be the odds were not in his favor, and that was good. So de-escalation is more of an option when that's the case as well. Now, I did make a mistake in that first encounter, and I think it's important to mention this. And I've talked with my wife about this. Is like, isn't it a little instigatory when you came out there and you yelled at him again? Because yeah, my initial reaction when I was kind of converging on what his path was and my path was on the second encounter, I yelled "Hey" again, and I did this Two reasons. He had changed his clothes slightly. He had acquired a backpack and a hoodie, and I was only about 95% certain that is the same guy that I saw doing the crime a moment ago. And so I used that shout again, "Hey," to snap his attention and see what his reaction was. I don't think I planned it that way, but that's basically what I recognize I was trying to do now. And that's exactly what it achieved. It did identify the guy, and since he had made verbal threats before, I was able to recognize his voice, and it was definitely the same clothes as he turned to face me. Not necessarily great though, because it did have no plan besides like, what am I going to do when I get his attention the second time now? Good plan, right? No, not necessarily a great plan at all, but it served its own purpose. The last thing I think is the most important thing. And this is the fact that, as I mentioned in the story, the cops did not show up. Local news did, and local news was very fast. They wanted information even that night, and I couldn't even upload things to a G drive as fast as they were reaching out to try to get stuff and wanted me to sign a form and say I've never experienced that sort of thing before. But why was the news important? I think there's two things that happened. We contacted the cemetery folks. Their office was closed at the time, but we left a message. We contacted a few of our close friends in the neighborhood and close neighbors to let them know what was going on. And my wife posted one in a neighborhood Facebook group. Now, neighborhood groups, okay. I didn't make a post on this until the following day myself. But what I'm trying to say here is local news actually serves a really interesting purpose. And that's one of my main takeaways from this. I was reminded of the fact that, wow, there's channels, competing channels, even inside the community that are obviously trying to get the scoop. And it's a business. Media is a business. Reporters, they need stories. We had a story, but the story served a purpose. The story served an important purpose of getting the word out to the community in a way that I think was actually really, really helpful to reclaim a space that had been damaged. And that's where my focus really was over the next several days after this event, is actually just being in awe of how much more traffic it brought to the cemetery. And now we have more good people wandering around. And when more good people are wandering around, then people who are up to no good don't show up. And it is that simple. So bringing awareness to the community of something terrible does attract attention. That attention brings about activity of a positive nature, and hopefully that lasts. Hopefully that space gets appreciated a little bit more. And I'm just grateful for the fact that, hey, there's people that will take these stories and they'll share it responsibly in a way that does serve the community. And that was actually a really beautiful thing to be a part of. Those are my takeaways, at least for now. I imagine I'll have several others, but I think I've talked about this story enough for now to let it be what it is. It was just a fascinating blip in my life of circumstance for my goals of physical fitness and my goals of developing my communication skills kind of converged in an interesting way. Hopefully you find these takeaways helpful. Hopefully it allows you to think about how you would act in a scenario where you're on your daily excursions in a place that you love. And if something happened there, maybe you have a rehearsal in your own mind of how you might perform. Maybe you do practice that sort of thing. And maybe, just maybe, you'll have to speak up yourself. Thank you for listening. I always remind my listeners again, listen up before you speak up, and thank you.
You've been listening to Speak Up, Effective Communication with Craig O'Neill on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Craig on your favorite podcast listening app and on his YouTube channel. Let him know what you'd like him to speak up about. Craig is all for advancing the automotive service aftermarket.